Yeah, I'm literally closing every single window I got just in case. All right, we are back. Hopefully, we'll get some people signed back on here in just a second. My apologies, gentlemen. I don't know what's going on with EV Mux today, but
No worries.
I'll have to phase out the music, I suppose. Let's get some people back on here, hopefully signed on in a second.
Hopefully it
So,
wasn't cutting out that timer.
yeah. All right. I think that kills the video description, though. That sucks. We'll have to figure that out later. I can always update it after the fact. But there shouldn't be any music now, Jen. Are you able to hear any music now?
Let me just check real quick. Looks like Peter's back on.
Cool.
Hear any music, Peter?
He says it's all
All
clear.
good.
Thank you, Peter.
Sweet.
Okay, cool.
I don't hear anything either. So
All right,
Yeah,
getting back to everything. Infamous exotic reptiles. Where did you come up with that one, man?
so the name literally comes from like my stage name. So off screen we were talking about how we like MMA and stuff. So I do have competitions. I've been training since I was 16, and then like the name itself comes from the fact that like I'm always talking shit to people and like poking fun at everybody, right? So they just called me Infamous. It's also like a kind of like a jab at me because I was like a really big Connor fan, so it was like Infamous, Notorious, kind of like synonymous, you know. So then
Yeah.
with all of like my Instagrams, it's either Infamous MMA or Infamous Fight
Yeah.
Gear, and then we got Infamous Exotics for Reptiles. So it's just part of my stage name. I just add it to everything now.
Nice. Now you said you were a Conor McGregor fan. Are you no longer? Or?
No, no, I am, but like before, like the hype train was crazy. So you know, I was in the front and center of that hype train going crazy. You know, now it's a little bit a little bit slower.
What did you think of him in that movie? He just came out, Roadhouse, the new one. Did you see it?
Yeah, it was so bad.
You didn't like
It
it?
was
No, it was
awful.
so bad. It was so bad. It was him in a movie. That's it. It wasn't like him as a character. It was him in a movie.
Yeah, no, I would
But
say that's like him all the time in a set
Yeah, yeah.
to a degree. I mean, that guy was a killer too. But I don't know, Connor, in the movie when he looked at the guy and said, "There's something wrong with you," and he said, "Me too." I like that scene. So that to me was a cool moment in that movie. Um, yeah, I don't know. Roadhouse is a movie that I could just watch all the time. The one from 1989. So when the new one came out, it really had a lot to live up to, and I just felt like it didn't. So I don't know.
the face for the new one, Angel, or the '89 one?
No, no, no. The face is for the new one. Oh
Yeah.
man, it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah. All right. Today, one of the things I was going to go over with you guys and kind of get your opinions on was social media presence. I'm going to start with a couple of the kind of the ones that I don't think matter, and because you guys both appear a little younger than me. Just correct me if I'm wrong, but so like X, or Twitter, Threads, which is what Instagram, Twitter, and then anything like that to me, Snapchat. Those three kind of feel like for reptiles they would just be completely irrelevant. Am I wrong there?
No, you're
I would
completely right.
agree.
Yeah. So those ones are not anything that I'll bring up in that case, but I know YouTube is pretty relevant for a lot of things. The big one that I wanted to bring up, are you guys both Gen Z? This is a quick question. Millennial, Gen Z?
I am.
Yeah.
25? Does that count as Gen Z? I think
I think
Angel and I
so.
are on the same
I'm
age.
23, so yeah.
Yeah, there
I
we
don't
go.
know I don't know where I am in there.
Yeah. So I think you're right around that cusp of millennial Gen Z. But Facebook has really dropped off. They said that like a recent poll said only about 33% of Gen Z uses it. They're calling it something like a boomer book or something, which is kind of funny because Gen X made Facebook and boomers have Facebook. But I remember 2009 they were recommending we get our boomer parents on there to find their friends and stuff long time ago, and we ended up bringing them on, so they weren't a part of it until later. But Facebook has kind of fallen off. I know there's a lot of people that still use it. What do you guys think? Let's start with Vinny. What do you think is going on with Facebook?
I would fully agree. I have a Facebook page that I've had for a little over like 5 or 6 years now, and it has probably double the followers that the Instagram does. And no traction, no engagement, nothing. Like it's just people like whatever they're gonna like on Facebook ultimately, but I haven't seen a lot of return as far as like sales or people actually engaging with the content on Facebook. I even tried Facebook Reels a couple times this year. It's Instagram's totally where it's at now. I mean, you can post stuff like on Instagram and link it to your Facebook, so they both post the same thing at the same time. But the engagement on Instagram is just so much better than Facebook. I don't even really touch it anymore, to be honest.
Yeah, I've got a pretty good Facebook account myself, and it has a superior like photo album area.
Hmm.
And I like the idea of ever being able to go there and look up my old stuff and like get the timestamps off of it. But it's just an extra step. I really wish Instagram would add like an albums, because the whole thing's an album, right? That's what it is. It's a photo album, but it's one. If they would add an area to section it off to different albums, that would be kind of I don't think I'd ever go anywhere else. But yeah, it does have a lot of hype around it. I'm 43. When I first got back into all of this, I didn't have an Instagram. It's something I thought, my kids had. And then it's just so the way that it works, it's so relevant. Like every day I open Instagram, every day I'm looking at other people's reptiles and seeing what they got going. Everybody except for Brett over at Bayside. I don't follow him on purpose.
Yeah.
Mostly because,
Does he breed geckos anymore? I thought he's only doing bull snakes.
I thought he was working last I checked at a lumber yard, and he was like, Joe's daughter is better than him. And that really offended me. So I wanted to make sure to bring it up. But, so Angel, what about you, man? Is Facebook something that you use a lot, or are we wrong here?
Nah, not really. I don't really use Facebook. I do go on Facebook for like the marketplace. It's pretty good for that, right? Like if
Yeah.
you're looking in the area for maybe some racks or something, you might be able to find some stuff. But if you're gonna go on Facebook to like make a new account, especially like super new for like your reptiles and stuff, I don't think it's beneficial. I feel like if you're not reaching out to like like to old people, like there's no point, Like no offense.
Shut up, Angel.
No offense. Like
Yeah,
my grandma, if you want to sell a gecko to my grandma, you could do that. There. But
I'm not a grandpa, but let's see. We got a comment over here, Jen, from
I know.
House of Reps.
I'm still trying to get off of out of the old people thing. Facebook is not all old people, okay?
no, it's not. It's not all old people, but
Yeah. I remember a time when I woke up every morning, and while I was getting ready, one of the first things I did was check Facebook.
Mhm.
And it seems like, I can't even imagine doing that now. But, looking at certain things on Facebook, there are a lot of reptile groups. They have, tens of thousands of people in them. But then you go in there and like 10 people are posting all the time, and, 9,900 and what's the math there? 990 are not active or doing anything on there. So, I just kind of always wonder. I will say, I don't know if you guys know Leah, Beta Geckos. She started a Facebook group last year, I want to say, and hers is almost at 1,000 right now. It's actually not doing too bad. I like to go on there if I can every now and then and post some stuff just because, people see it. I don't know. It seems to me like a little bit of cliquey behavior. Like people go there to fight.
yeah, and I was literally just thinking that I was gonna add that in. Like Facebook is another place where you go if you want to just have a bad day. Like you go in these groups and there's so much negativity. Everybody's bashing each other. Like you can't make a post because then you get like 50,000 comments on how you're wrong, and then people are fighting. So it's like Instagram is much more simpler. You don't really get those kind of like interactions on Instagram.
Yeah. Instagram seems like all the comments come out positive. What do you think, Vinny? Like, do you get a lot of any negative feedback on any of your photos or anything like that?
Not a ton. I would say mainly Facebook. Like every time, there's a few Arizona forums out here, and it seems like those are the go-to place for people to just talk shit. Like I don't know what it is about it. Facebook just being the portal that everybody goes to vent to. But I haven't seen anything like that on Instagram. I don't know if it's just. I really don't know why that is. It just seems like Facebook is always the go-to for that.
Yeah. No, I agree. And honestly, since I I think I got on Instagram 5 years ago now, and it's been useful every day. There's not a day that I haven't, loved doing that. We got one over here from Peter. Jen, you want to read that one?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
that's funny.
laughing at it.
Chin check.
Yeah. Okay.
Nice.
I will say Facebook though, if you post, I think there's a group called High End Morphs or something like that, which is pretty. It's a smaller group, but every now and then, if you post like a nice Tremper in there, Ron Tremper will give you a thumbs up. So it makes your day when that happens. I've had that happen once. I was like, oh wow, I'm getting props from the guy himself. Cool.
Yeah. I'll have to go on to High End Morphs and check that out.
Yeah, you'll have to post. Brett's get him every time. Anytime Brett posts one of his Bengal high contrast animals.
Who's Brett? I don't know who that is.
He
Yeah, who was that guy?
captures the heck out of those photos too, I bet. Right, Brett?
Yeah.
I know he's lurking somewhere in the comments.
Yeah, right.
I know he is.
Well, I feel like a social media presence is, it's relevant. It's very useful.
Mhm.
Is there, like, if you guys could on Instagram for some of us people who have only been using it for a few years, like, what would you say? Some advice for people using Instagram, because I know like hashtags are not the way anymore. Or something about so everybody keeps when you bring up Instagram, everybody says, "Oh, the algorithm, this," and I'm like, "Bro, spell algorithm." You know what I mean? And so anyway, what advice would you give Jen because she's in her 40s?
Joe, excuse me, you've got 3 years on me, bro.
Yeah, checks out.
There is one thing I'll say. If you post a picture now, like I was doing some research on this about a month ago, and I've tried it, and it's engaged more people a little bit, like not a ton, but there's like a feature called alt text where you go into like the advanced settings on any picture you post, and you just write like leopard gecko, so that if anybody searches for leopard geckos on Instagram, your stuff will pop up versus just waiting for the hashtags or the algorithm to work, I guess. I've noticed a little bit more engagement with that, not a ton, but like, likes, you get a little bit more likes and follows when you do that, which, those don't always convert to people interested in buying your stuff or liking your stuff, but hey, it's putting your name out there a little more.
Yeah. What about you, Angel? You got any insight towards navigating Instagram better?
Yeah, I think the key for Instagram is literally just posting, right? Being on it, engaging, posting, especially reels. Reels are like what really helps get your name out there because like for instance, your pictures might end up on the explore page, but your reels there's a whole reel tab, People are scrolling all day. Like you guys, I don't know if you guys are like this, but I'm younger. I'm on my phone like 24/7 scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, So I might end up on your video, and if I'm ending up on your video, there's probably 1,000 other people that are too. So I think reels are definitely the way. I think see Reese in the comments, don't copy me. But yeah, no, that's really it. It's reels. You got to post reels.
I was gonna say, even in my 40s, I find myself 2, 3 in the morning still
Scrolling, right?
because
Yeah, you see?
time just passes so fast, and before I know it, I'm like, damn, I should have been in bed already.
Yeah.
You're like 20 videos deep.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I definitely go through that. My what do you call that? Circadian rhythm is way off or whatever because you're online. But I try to get my ass to sleep earlier. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on. There's another one, TikTok.
Yeah, TikTok. I was gonna say that's another one. I think TikTok is very beneficial too. The only thing is there's so many people on TikTok, so I would say it's a little bit harder. But if you post consistently on TikTok, you can gain a following too. I think what's more beneficial about TikTok though is if you can get up to a certain amount of followers. I think it's 1,000, right? If you can get 1,000 followers, you can go live. And going live on TikTok is much different than going live on Instagram, right? Because Instagram it'll only push your live out to your followers, right? But TikTok it's on your For You page, so that's the main page, and people stop on those lives and they'll watch you, and you can get like 400 people watching your random TikTok live, asking you questions and engaging with you, and you can use that to drive them to your Instagram or to your Morph Market or whatever. I know views doesn't always convert into sales, but at least you have those eyes on you.
Yeah. What about you, Vinny? Do you navigate TikTok at all, or?
No, that's another avenue I got to try again. I don't have like a page for the geckos on TikTok yet, but I've seen a couple pages. Like I think there was a guy like Echo Geckos or something.
Mhm.
He's a pretty good following on Instagram too.
Yeah.
When I had I deleted it like a few months ago because I just was like scrolling it way too much. Um, but I saw his stuff on there, and he had tons of, like Angel was saying, like tons of views.
Yeah.
And he'd go live every now and then and show off some of his projects. So I think that's definitely where the future's headed.
Yeah.
Social media. It seems like Instagram, TikTok, and then YouTube still. Like those are
Mhm.
the big three.
I gotta
Seems like
agree.
it would be easy enough to get 1,000 followers on TikTok. You were going to say something, Jen.
Yeah, I had put up Reese's comment because I'm going to agree with him. I started off with TikTok more than using Instagram, and then kind of switched over to Instagram because it seemed to be more people using it. But
Mhm.
Reese is right; it's hard to balance all social medias. So it's like, where do you want to
Yeah.
invest your time?
It's kind of the point of this conversation. I think from what I'm getting out of this is like Facebook's not really. I should probably almost delete that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that I could focus on the ones that matter for reptiles because I'm not on social media for anything other than this. Like if I'm being honest, some people are, a lot of people are, but um, I used to have that Facebook that I went on every day, and it's still there. I just don't ever go on it. When I do go on it, I have a lot of reptile people trying to like add request me or whatever, and I'm just like, I don't come on here, guys. I don't want to like offend you. So, but yeah, TikTok. I read something the other day that was saying since they came out with the TikTok shop, the way that the For You page is no longer functioning the way that it used to. The stuff you used to see and all the things that, when you would click on something and like it, that's what would show up on your page.
Mhm.
So like, if I had somebody that asked me like, hey, how do you navigate TikTok? I'd be like, don't like any dancing girls if you don't want to see that all day. You know what I mean? Because that's all you'll see.
Yeah.
If you just scroll away from it, click on the stuff that interests you over time, you'll just start getting only the stuff that interests you, right?
Yeah.
If it's Reese, it's dancing guys. So
With rubber duckies.
with rubber duckies. Oh, Jen.
I couldn't help it.
Oh,
I'm
so
sorry, Reese. I'm sorry, Reese.
game face.
Got
So
him with that one.
yeah,
I better be careful. He knows where I live.
yeah, that's true. That checks out. So, but I heard that they're kind of starting to lose their speed. It's all kind
Yeah.
of moving towards YouTube again, and it's because they're not paying their content creators. So the content creators are now using it to gain a following and then transfer people over to their
Yeah.
other social medias. And so TikTok could be phasing out in the next year or two if it's going to
Mhm.
continue that way. Um, when the content creators have links in their bios and it says click the link in my bio, I guess if even TikTok's only allowing so many of those clicks, like they won't let you go to their other social medias.
Yeah.
You know what Joe's page looks like now? Yeah. It's a lot of Reese dancing. He break dances. So, you got to put that on your For You page.
Reese missed my comment too, so that's good. Watch it later, Reese.
So your advice would be to post. Yeah. Your advice though would be to put the reels on Instagram and TikTok because it's the same setup,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that too. Even I was gonna say like the trifecta would be Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, right? And just like spam your content within like the reels, right? Because they're all reels at the end of the day. You go to Instagram Reels, YouTube Shorts, and then even TikToks. You just put the same content on there. It could be literally the same video. I know people that actually post the same video every single day. So like you don't have to get like as crazy as that, but you can post every single time you're gonna post like one video, you make a video, just post it all on the same thing and then just leave it out there. But like I said, I do know people that will post the same video every single day and one of them will hit, like it could be 20 videos and maybe 19 of them has 100 views, but then
Mhm.
that one video will have a couple thousand or even like not a million, but it's definitely possible.
Yeah. So YouTube Shorts, that's the same thing as Reels then? TikTok and
Yes, it's just on YouTube. Yeah, it's just on YouTube. It's YouTube Shorts. I think honestly, it's gonna sound a little crazy, but I think that YouTube Shorts is actually bigger than like vlogs and different kind of videos on YouTube because we live in a day where like not everybody has 15 minutes, 20 minutes to watch a video. But if you can put like all of your information real like short and concise on a 15-second video on YouTube, it's gonna blow up faster, you know?
Yeah. Have you noticed the content creators coming out with all these really fancy ways to sell you shit now that that the store is there? Like I've seen videos where like you'll watch a small clip of somebody about
Yeah,
to
the
get fucked
transitions.
up,
Yeah,
they're
yeah,
about-
yeah, yeah. The transitions, yeah.
and then they fall down, and it's like it switches over to them, or they
Uh,
get wet.
Now,
That is that
sorry.
is like one of the funniest new things I've seen. Like they're trying really hard to sell like
uh-huh.
bathroom soap and stuff now.
You'll see like a guy in a car dealership or like in a mattress place, and he'll show the first clip of somebody falling from the sky, and then he'll land super hard on the bed, and then he's like
Yeah.
giving you his pitch. Yeah.
So
So
I don't know if this is gecko related, guys, but Scott had a question. What do y'all know about Ray Gun? We love her over here, so I'm not really sure.
Ray gun?
Yeah.
I don't know. I I have another social media question.
Go ahead. I was
so-
just
no,
there.
what
I'll
are
look-
some of the behaviors in social media where you feel it's relevant, like Instagram? You said YouTube and you said TikTok. What are some of the negative things that you'd like to see change in those areas?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I think clicky behavior. I'll throw one out. Clicky behavior. It's kind of like clicky behavior can lead to like people getting really upset, because I've had a couple of people like, hey, you created this chat and you don't chat in there, and I'm like, well, it's for the Geckoverse, and it's like it's a community chat. And then I've had other people say like, they're in there posting food and shit, and I'm like, it's fine, it's a chat room, it's not anything other. If I wanted a broadcast channel, that's what I'd do. And for people who don't know what a broadcast channel is, basically it's a channel where you can post. Everybody that joins it can just look at your posts, and you can invite people in there to be moderators or whatever it is, a collaborator. And then but then if you do that and there's like 50 people in there but you're only allowing 8 people to post, there's that clicky behavior. They're going to get upset about it. And so initially, when I was going to do the Geckoverse thing, I was going to do a broadcast channel, and I chose not to. And so with that, you got to open up the group. You got to worry about little things like people saying stuff they shouldn't, which honestly, if anybody ever even has in that chat, I have no clue. Have you guys ever gone through anything like that where you're part of a chat and people come to you like, hey, your chat room's not good right now? And you're like, I hardly interact.
Yeah. I think to answer your question though, I don't think it's a problem with social media. I think it's a problem with the way people are on it. I think a lot of people are super sensitive, right? So like you're
Yeah.
saying that you have this group chat and people are like messaging you on the side, like, oh, they're talking about this or that. Like I think a lot of people on social media just need to calm down and just like don't open up the chat. You can mute it and that's it. I think that's really what it is. I feel like social media as a tool, it's like really great, right? Like you can get yourself out there, and I haven't had any really like bad experience, but I do know like the people, like even with Facebook, we all agreed that like you go on Facebook if you want to have a bad day, like it's just the people,
Yeah. Another negativity on social media is like I've seen like a bunch of people have a small disagreement, and the next thing you know, they're not
Yeah.
following each other. And
Oh,
when you talk to them, they say, "I unfollowed that guy," and I'm like, "Why?" So
yeah,
what if you
that's
don't agree with him? Just follow him anyway. Like, well, he unfollowed me. Who cares? There's a lot of people on social media that I talk to every day, and I don't even know if they don't notice they're not following me. And then all of a sudden, I'll get that follow, and I'll be like, "Oh, it took you long enough, fucker." Like I'm just my way. And they'll be like, "I didn't even know," and I'm like, "I don't even care." It's just so and I think like Instagram is one of those that it's what you like to see, and if you don't want to see my content, don't follow it. Like it's fine.
yeah.
What do you guys think about that one, Vinny? What do you got?
I totally agree. Like we were talking about a couple weeks ago, like ultimately we're breeding geckos. We're not saving lives. We're not performing open heart surgery. If you don't like the shit that I'm posting, like you don't have to follow me. You don't have to like it. it's social media for a reason. If I don't have anything that interests you, like it is what it is, you know. Community's pretty awesome as is. Like if people want to fight about stuff, like I'm gonna stay out of it. Ultimately, it's just it's not worth it. You know, it's we're breeding geckos in our rooms and showing them off on the internet. That's what it's all about.
Breeding geckos in her. My brother, man, he made fun of me until I started making sales one year. You know, because initially when you first start off, you're not doing great, not that area.
Right.
You're learning. Nobody knows who you are. He used to like, hey, you know, like Joe's going to be here in a little while. I think he's at home watching geckos fuck, and then he'll be here. I was like, stop saying that, bro. Like, I was like, Tim, dude. my brother's name is Tim. He's 27 or something like that now. So yeah, that's what he would do, and he would just talk shit. But
sounds like my girlfriend. I paired some up the other night, and she's like, "Are you watching them fuck in the room?" And I'm like, you don't get it. Like,
I think we all get accused of that for sure.
Yeah.
Because that's weird, man. I go, I have to make sure they don't like hurt each other.
Yeah.
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 And then you explain for 10 minutes. He's like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense."
My
like,
poor
I'm just
husband,
giving you a hard time.
Yeah, my poor husband gets it from his friends too, like videos of outside lizards. And is this what your wife does all day? Yeah. Yeah. So it is what
We all watched Nat Geo growing up.
All right. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to touch base on with the social media stuff. It kind of sounds like I don't know. I might just get rid of that Facebook altogether. I don't think I need it. I don't want to sign on to it and have to work with it. Instagram's constantly asking me, "Do you want to post this over there?" But then I have to go over there and answer comments, and I don't know.
Facts, Brett.
Oh man.
Money shot.
So we had a change up in the white and yellow discussion. Vinny actually brought it to my attention, so I removed one of them. But I wanted to ask you guys about some of the differences. This is actually a place where I'm really not overly qualified, so it's going to be on you guys. But let us know some of the differences. Do you both work with white and yellows? I'm assuming.
I do pretty extensively. Angel, how about you?
I had a small little group of them. I didn't have the best experience with them, but I did have a small group this year.
Okay. So the one that I wanted to talk about the most was, depending on lineage, like tell us some of the differences that you guys see with white and yellow. And after that, I was going to ask you to kind of talk about the ones that, because I've had a lot of people like, if you ever reach out to Matt or some of those other guys, they'll tell you like, that's not a white and yellow. And to me, the whole time I'm like, well, high white sides. And he's like, not high enough or whatever it was. So I that's why I don't work with them, is I feel like I can't spot them. So what are some of the differences that you see in the white and yellows depending on lineage, with other morphs and stuff like that?
I would say it really depends on what you cross them to. And like most of the lines that I work with can be traced back to like, the original stuff. I think Matt Baronic, like he was the first to have them in the States. Because I forget who he was like mentored by, or that guy was doing crested geckos at some point, but he had them for a while, crossing some Tremper stuff, like, can track mine back to that. And I've noticed when you pair them up, like the odds to get them are pretty consistent, like 50-50 throughout the season. I've always felt like there's always like the label of possible white and yellow, because you're going to get one or two that are like low expression that just aren't really going to show that high white of side or anything like that. If I ever sell one like that, I always label it as possible. And I've had animals like that you breed them together, and next season they pop out a super high white, like super high contrast white and yellow. So it really just depends. And I haven't really noticed anything more consistent than the other across the lines that I have. I have two primary males though this season that are both white and yellow, and they both throw me really amazing stuff. I would say the hardest part, honestly, is just it's sometimes determining what, like if you breed it to like a Max Snow, for example, sometimes it's easy to tell when there's Max Snow, white and yellow Tremper together. Like sometimes it's super high contrast. You can see the even higher white sides. There's usually a little bit more lavender with the babies. Usually the nape is all white and maintains that color till like 40 grams.
Yeah.
Those ones are easy to call out. But every now and then, like, you'll hatch out a low expression white and yellow baby that looks really cool, but you can't really tell what it is until like 40, 50 grams. That's, in my experience, like, that's always what I've seen with that gene. It really just depends. Usually when you have it with just Tremper, it's pretty easy to tell. But if you mix like Max Snow, it's usually when the snows are mixed in, it tends to throw you a little bit of curveballs every now and then.
You know, I just had a pretty interesting idea. But before that, Angel, do you have anything to add to that, or?
I'll piggyback off of the Max Snow kind of statement. So it is true. So like when I did my first pairing, I crossed a Max Snow Tremper to a Max Snow white and yellow. Well, both of them were white and yellow actually.
Okay.
So when I did that cross, the first baby that came out, he looked like he could be white and yellow, and obviously I'm a little bit inexperienced, so I was sending it around. I actually sent it to Brett. I sent it to Steve. I had sent it to Reese, and like the opinions were a little bit split. And then I had popped out another one, and then once I popped out that second one, it was like much more easier to tell which one was the white and yellow compared to the non-white and yellow. Like for instance, the non-white and yellow had the very high white sides, and that's what was tricking us. We were really thinking that was a possible white and yellow, but then when the second one came out, it kind of like showed us that like the actual color of the gecko was much different. Like it was like more white rather than kind of like black with the high white sides. It was more white, and it was like a little bit like faded kind of. But like that was like the indicator for me. I had a couple of tangerines that were across the white and yellow that I was able to figure out which one was white and yellow compared to the non-white and yellow. So I haven't really had like a problem identifying it, but it is definitely like 1,000% like much different. You know, I haven't seen like a low expression white and yellow or any of that. All of the ones that I've hatched seem like they're white and yellow like off the gate. You know.
Yeah. You know, I was just thinking a minute ago, and actually I'm glad that I asked you to chime in first because you brought up another way in. A really good idea on Instagram, I was going to say for Vinny, who works primarily with white and yellows, would be for a broadcast channel, would be something like white and yellow identification or white and yellow identifiers. And then having, you know, everybody would add in, obviously the group's not going to blow up all the time, but like, let's say I send you an animal. And then you pick your moderators, whoever they are, like people that work, you know, with them a lot and they know what they're doing. And the reason for that would be, you know, you can create polls. Like if it's a broadcast channel and I can't type on there, better. I send you the animal, you post it and say, hey, Joe. And then everybody goes because like Angel was saying, opinions vary, you know, or he said they're split, you know, like some guy says it is, one guy says it's not. And you're over here like, I'm not going to work with this. Instead of that, what if, you know, 5 or 8 people, you know, are in there and they're giving their opinions, and those are the people that can type, and it's not getting buried by all the rest of us who are asking the questions. We're just learning. A poll can be created from that. You know, people can vote on it, all kinds of stuff. And so I was just thinking that would be a really interesting, you know, whenever there's a morph that's difficult to work with, that would be an interesting broadcast channel. So
definitely. And I think piggybacking off that too, I mean, it really comes down to just knowing the lineage of your animals too. Like having parent pictures and knowing exactly what genetics are going into the cross helps a lot. Like the white and yellows that I have, like I have this really nice red stripe holdback male from last year, super high white sides and super high white on the head. No snow involved in the line. Like, and he's kept that coloration pretty much. He's pushing like 55 grams right now. Like super high white, but no snow in them. Whereas like I have a really nice white and yellow Max Snow from Brett actually, and you look at that animal and then you look at the lineage that it came from and you're like, oh yeah, that's a Max Snow, like no question. It has the white nape, like, so it's really like having that parent info too in situations like that really helps to identify stuff. Because sometimes you have to go back a generation and look like, okay, what did the parent look like with Max Snow involved with the white and yellow? Like, was it super high contrast or was it more of like a subtle thing that, you know, passed on to that next gen? So.
All right. No, yeah, that's all of that is interesting. there was a time when I thought like I could, man, I know when I'm looking at a white and yellow, and then come to find out I really don't. Another really interesting one would be identifying specific snows. When you put snows to certain albinos and they come out, depending on the kind of animal it was before, um, you know, I believe that it's always not always a black and white animal, but that's moving on to a completely different topic. Jen, do we have anything in the comments?
Yeah, actually, Reese was asking, when do you make the decision to take the possibility of
Cool.
white and yellow off? If you don't know, and it's older. So, do you guys ever remove the pos white and yellow, or do you just always leave it?
I usually wait till they're about, I would say 40, 50 grams, which, that's anywhere from, depending on how fast they grow, 6 to 9 months. Um, I would say around then is when, because when they're babies too, like they have white and yellows don't always hatch out super bright, and they have that first shed, and then you're like, oh yeah, that's no doubt, that's a white and yellow.
Mm.
I would say around there is usually when I make that determination, but I will always put, the parent info. Like if I sell one and I'm like, I don't think this is, but you know, just know that it comes from that pairing. So if you pop one out, if that's something that you wanted in that pairing, then congrats, you got some cool looking animals.
I've got an animal too. I'm going to take like side, top, everything. I'm going to send it to you. I'm going to have you look at it because I think it's not a white and yellow. And if it's not one, actually, I'll be pretty excited about that because I want to use it, but I don't want to use it if it is white and yellow, if that makes sense. Not that I'm trying to not work with it, but I have a feeling that I'm looking at something else and it's pretty cool. So I want to utilize it, but I don't want to utilize it as white and yellow. I've had a lot of people ask me POS white and yellow. Okay, so POS in front of dominant. Can either of you touch on what you mean when you say that for the people who might see this?
Vinny, you want to go first? Go.
Yeah, for sure. Really just comes down to if it's low expression, I'm not going to 100% guarantee that that is because I don't want you to breed that something with the expectation that you're going to pop out white and yellows. That's like the worst thing as like a breeder who's trying to do this ethically and be around for the long run. Like I don't want to sell an animal that ultimately goes to a project that then doesn't pump out the animals that are expected. I always want to provide people with the right genetics, with the correct genetics, like parent info as far back as I can get. Any extra info that I can provide to somebody who's eventually breeding one of my animals, like that's what I want to do. I don't ever want to mislabel something. And I think that's where a lot of, and POS white and yellow too, you don't really see, I don't think there's a lot of controversy on labeling that either. Not that I've seen. Like I know even John oh yeah, I know John at Geckoverse sometimes like he's like, I'm like pretty sure that it is, but not going to guarantee it. Which a lot of people consider him the GOAT. So,
yeah, no, that's actually pretty interesting because like when I first got into it, I remember the first time I ever saw it, and I had a feeling it had a lot to do with expression, especially since even I have trouble identifying them, which is why I chose not to work with them. Nothing to do with what they look like; they're amazing. Actually, my daughter Samantha predominantly works with white and yellow, and I know she picked some up from you recently, Vinny. So yeah, and you're right. You do write a lot of information about your animals. I saw them.
I try, man. I try not to leave anything as an open question. I think it's because I know you guys are husbandry pro users too, so you like having all that to enter in, and it's important. Got to keep track of it. You can get lost in the weeds real quickly if you don't.
Yeah, and POS is it's interesting because you're saying because obviously being dominant, it's either a white and yellow or it's not. So if it's not, you don't want to mislead. That's a interesting way to put that. What would you say is your favorite thing about them, Angel? About white and yellow, and why you worked with them for the time that you have?
I would say the way that it like enhances color. Like I have some clutch mates that one is a white and yellow and the other isn't, and the white and yellow looks so much better. Like so much. It blows it out the water. Like if you see these two clutch mates, you wouldn't even think that they're like related, So I really think it's the color thing, like also the high white sides is pretty cool to me too. I think that's like a really cool feature that it has. And then on top of that, when you like really cross it to some really nice tangerines, it like takes it to the next level. You see it on Vinny's page, like his white and yellows are sick, That tangerine gets taken to the next level with the white and yellow.
Yeah, there's like an electric waterfall coming down the back on his, surrounded
Oh
by
man,
like bright orange, and it's kind of crazy.
yes,
What about you, Vinny? What is your favorite thing about white and yellow?
Definitely what Angel's saying. I think it's one of those genes that, like tangerine, whenever you breed tangerine to something, depending on what you cross it to, usually that takes over a little bit too much, especially if you're going for like pattern. I'm a big pattern guy. Like I really like the stripes down the back, like the jungle pattern. Like I don't like animals that kind of wash out into adulthood that are like, super patterned when they hatch and then it just is completely almost patternless at like 40 grams. White and yellow, like it always seems to just enhance whatever the current pattern or color is on that animal, especially with a lot of the red diamond stuff that you're seeing now. Like anything with that lineage that you tend to cross, red diamond or blood, tangerine or white and yellow looks really neat across those two.
Okay.
Well, that can actually lead into a question that Reese has. What's your guys' favorite white and yellow cross?
Definitely white and yellow tangerine tremper. I only do trempers. That's just like my albino line that I prefer.
Mhm.
Nothing against rainwaters and bells, although I have a Angel and I was talking a little bit of shit about bells to Angel the other day.
We're gonna have the Bells Mafia after
bells,
us.
bells are my least favorite. Yeah, Bells Mafia is gonna be
They're
a
gonna
little
come
mad at me,
after us.
but
Oh man.
if I want brown albinos, I'll start going into bells. But
Oh, jeez.
sorry, Greg, too, if you're watching. I know Blizzy Bold. That's like his.
Yeah.
He said they were the superior. I'd have to disagree with that. I actually think Rainwater is the best albino when crossed to white and yellow. I think those look
Yeah, those look pretty
outstanding,
cool.
like even better than Trempers. But Trempers are all I work with, so those are always gonna be my favorite. They've been what I've been into since a kid.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, did you guys see that lava that Brett is auctioning on Morph Market?
Yeah, wow, that's a really nice animal.
Sweet.
So nice. So
Yeah.
nice.
So he's trying to work with the legalities of it because I know he doesn't want Morph Market to come after him, but he wanted to make this really nice gesture to me, and he said he was going to give me the animal and pay for the shipping, which I couldn't believe it. I was like, bro, it's on auction. You have like $700 on there right now, and he's like, no, brother, like we're tight. And I was
It's
like,
funny because he told me the same thing. Since
That's the crazy part.
his wedding. So,
yeah,
That's crazy because he said the same thing to me. So I guess we're gonna have to figure it out.
yeah.
yeah. So
Brett's just starting
share it,
crap
we'll share
over
it.
there.
I get it on weekends.
did you see the account on there that you can totally tell? There's an account on there you can totally tell is one of his other accounts that he's like up in the bids. Like I can totally tell. It actually looks pretty legit. It's going up like $5-10 at a time. So I'm just messing around. Stowaway lavas for everyone watching. There you go. See,
Nice.
you heard it first, right there. His logo's attached to it. This is not.
I'll be waiting, Brett.
It's not a thing. But no, man, I saw that animal and I was kind of like, oh, that's really cool. There's an animal that I saw 2 years ago in Korea out of an Instagram page called a sunspot, and it looked just like what Brett has on the auction block right now. So I was kind of like, oh, all right, I kind of know exactly how that was made. And so sunspot and lava, I'm not sure if they're the exact same thing. I'd have to look into it, but I was thinking about that when I saw his animal on the auction the other day. So, Vinny, what do you think about my idea for a broadcast channel, man? You think you might be able to do something like that?
Oh yeah, I'd love to. Sounds like a good time. I think the hobby too it's getting bigger by the year. It seems like there's a lot more breeders out there and a lot more people interested in it. So love it.
That's interesting that you bring that up. Somebody the other day asked me, what about the economy is hurting everybody, and that's why there's like not a lot of sales going off. And I was kind of thinking about it. I'm like, that could very well be part of it, but another big part of it would be temperament within the hobby. If there's any sort of toxicity, people are going to see it. And so
Yeah.
kind of like your mannerisms, your behaviors, and how you treat others when they ask you questions, or, if they come to you with other people's drama or talking shit or whatever, it's like, hey, so it's just, if you have a more of an interesting demeanor and you're talking to people and you don't care when people are hating on you, you don't even bother with it. People come back to you and they talk to you and they feel safe around you. And so if they have an extra to spend, they're going to stick around. And I think as a hobby, I feel like a long time ago, leopard geckos were number one. We were up there. We're definitely not number one now. It's got to be ball pythons now, right?
Yeah.
But other communities are, reptile communities can be pretty toxic as well. And I think ours is improving. That's actually something that I've been.
That was a wild comment, right?
Oh,
I'm gonna make sure I put it up.
but no, I really do feel like ours is improving. And I was going to ask each one of you, Angel, have you noticed any sort of improvement in your hobby with other breeders who, maybe you felt like, weren't safe from?
Um, I don't know. I feel like I'm probably not the most qualified to answer this question because I've only been around for about a year and some change, you know? So like I feel
Okay.
like since being here, it's always been the same. I feel like we go through stages where everything's chill, everybody's good, something
Yeah.
happens, everybody's angry,
Yeah.
dies down, chill, angry, chill, you know? So I don't know. I don't really have like a for sure answer.
What about you, Vinny?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that's changing our hobby right now. Reese is on fire right now.
Reese is going crazy right now. Wow. Wow.
It'll make everybody blush.
Oh,
Oh man, I love the comment section. It's one of my favorite
Oh,
things.
that's
Go ahead,
good
Vinny.
stuff. No, you're good. I think one of the biggest things, and like I always try and be an open book, honestly. Like I know there's, if you're working on a special project and you don't want to talk about it or, let people know what exact animals you're using just yet, like totally respect that. But, if anybody asks me any like questions about the pairs that I'm, any pairings for the animals that I have up for sale that I'm willing to share, like any general information as well. I think it's like I don't try and gatekeep. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to keep this industry thing a secret. Like ultimately, it's all on YouTube or on the internet. If you do like an hour of research, like Angel and I were just talking about, you know, incubating females for 35 days and then moving them up to the male incubator. That gets you better albinos ultimately in brighter colors. Like that's been known for years, but I think some new breeders that maybe don't know that, the first year they try and just incubate at 82 and don't get the results that they're looking for. And then they try that the next season and they have really nice animals. Like, I think it's important to share that info. I think it helps build the hobby up and have people, have a really good experience with everything. And like you're saying, if you're an open book and honestly just do your best work and help people out, they're going to come back to you. They're going to use you as a lifeline for information. And all goes back to we're not saving lives, like we're breeding geckos. So the more the merrier. And I agree. I think the hobby's improving. I think it's in a really good state right now. I think economy wise, that's probably why it's affecting, everybody a little bit. Even the big breeders, I think they're feeling it right now. There's just not a lot of, disposable income to drop on geckos right now, but won't be like that forever. I think now is a good time to stock up on some really nice animals and,
mhm.
have some cool projects in development and then just start posting them next year.
Yeah, almost like cryptocurrency. You should be buying right now.
Right. Buy
The
low.
economy improves at all, you're just going to make money. I remember the economy tanked for crypto like 7 years ago, bro. I was buying up those cryptocurrency, whatever they're called, for $10, and then I opened the account one day when the economy was booming, and I was just like, I'm going to buy animals. I was just like, oh shit, I'm going to buy animals. I had people like that I told, hey, spend $10 here. Like, oh, dude, thanks. It's going to be a good Christmas. So I feel like right now is the time to get geckos because you can go on Morph Market and there's quality animals there that are way underpriced. And I know we're all feeling the effects of needing to offload what we have, which is probably why I didn't breed as many as I wanted to this year. But I'm having trouble letting any of my animals go with my move coming up. So, um, Angel, are you a second year breeder or a
No,
first year?
this is my first year breeding. I started collecting and gathering like what I wanted to work with last year, but
Yeah.
this was like my first official season.
So for your first official season, how many pairings did you choose to go with?
You know what? Initially, I was supposed to only do like maybe like 4 or 5 because I had the space. I ended up doing like 15. You know, I got a little trigger happy, but
Yeah.
thankfully I was able to like expand. So not a lot of people know this, but originally, my racks were literally in my room. Like my bed's right here, and my racks were right in front of me. I ended up building a room in the basement, maybe like 2.5 months ago. So now I
Okay.
have like so much more space. I ended up getting a couple more racks, and now I'm like good. Like I have a lot of space now for a lot of animals. And even though I did do that many pairings, I didn't get like flooded with animals. And the amount that I did have, I probably have like half because I've been able to like sell a good amount of them. You know.
Getting that extra room, Angel, is dangerous. When I
Yes,
lived in Florida
yes, yes.
here, I
Trust
have
me,
an
I know.
entire basement, and yeah,
Trust me, I know. While I was in my room, I'm saying I gotta let go of some of these breeders, you know, like let me centralize my breeding. And then I got rid of them. I go downstairs out of nowhere. I have the same amount of breeders again. I'm like, where did this come from? What's going on?
Yeah, it's a disease we all have, but it's a good disease to have, man. I get when I'm there and it's time to pair and I'm writing it all down, it's just awesome to be able to have all these different options. What about you, Vinny? How many did you pair up?
Yeah, and I actually have some late ovulators this year too, so I'm still pairing up stuff. Um,
Oh,
yeah, females that just like were born right around this time last year, or maybe a couple months ahead, so they're just starting to pop. Um, Probably we'll have 8 or 9 this season once all in though. So
okay.
it'll definitely be my largest season this year. Last year I think I did about 30 or 40. This year I'm shooting for probably close to 60 or 70, depending. A couple of them are first year breeders though, so
Pairings
probably.
next
Oh
year?
no! Just
Oh,
babies in total. That's what I'm
okay.
anticipating.
Whew. I
No.
was like, yeah,
God
damn,
no.
man.
I'm
30 to
counting
40.
what I paired in my head, and I'm thinking about all the babies that I've had already hatch, and the 15 still sitting in the incubator, and I'm like, he's lost his mind.
How
No,
many
not
did you,
quite there.
Jen? How many did you pair this year?
Oh, I don't even remember, to be honest. We were in competition for a little bit there when we got those pairings in the beginning of the year. I got ahead of you for a little while. I know 3 were all duds. Ended up male, I believe, was infertile, so I kind of let him go at the show. But
Okay.
right now, I have had 98 babies hatch.
Wow.
That not 100% success rate. I've lost some eggs, obviously, along the way, just for whatever reason. And I've got 15 eggs, and I cannot wait to turn the incubator off. I'm like so done.
Yeah, I think I'm 4 away from turning the incubator off.
Yeah, me too.
Lucky,
Um,
lucky. I got 3 left in the males, and then the rest are in my female incubator. So a
okay.
little bit of time.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So, Angel, you're going to be ramping up a little bit more next year now that you got space.
Yeah, definitely.
I know. I talked to Reese here and there. He had just moved a lot of his stuff, where he's building a reptile room, so in a basement, right, Jen?
Yeah. Reese has been to my house. He came when I first moved, not too long after, and seen what I had, and now he sees what I have now. So
Yeah.
thanks, Reese.
Um, so the importance of outcrossing. Now we had obviously talked about some topics we wanted to throw down, but I think that you guys wanted to apply this to white and yellow. Um, actually, Vinny, I believe you did. So, to you, the importance of outcrossing white and yellows. What would you say that is, and to what it applies to for white and yellow syndrome?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's hit or miss, right? Like I used to manage a reptile shop in college, And we had some white and yellows in the shop that we'd get in from either people that bought at shows or, just surrendered. They literally just drop them at the front door sometimes because they, buy an animal at a show and decide they didn't want it 24 hours later. And I would say a good third of them, usually that came in the shop, did have it. We didn't get very many. I would say maybe like 9 or 10 over the 4 years that I worked there. But I think it's really important to outcross that line because you can have a really clean line of white and yellow. Like I don't have white and yellow syndrome in my collection. I haven't seen it yet. And I say yet because I don't want to I know it can be spontaneous sometimes with it is a neurological equilibrium thing that happens. It's not as severe as Enigma by any means, but I don't really see it in my collection, but I've definitely seen it before. And it was just very clear that these animals were kind of puppy mill, gecko mill animals, if you will. They were just, the breeder probably bought a white and yellow for super cheap and paired it up to either another white and yellow that had it already or, just some Petco geckos and popped out some really low quality stuff. I think when you're outcrossing really established lines together, though, and making sure that you're not breeding white and yellow the best that you can, I think that's the key to success with the gene and not having that in your collection. I've done one white and yellow pairing, and I probably won't do it again. Didn't have any animals pop out with it at all. It just still kind of, I've heard some breeders will do it, some won't. Wanted to try it this season. Had some really cool red stripes pop out of it, but I'm like, it still felt kind of wrong doing it to a certain degree. I was like, I know this is like gray area. So I probably, I'm not going to do that again. I'm just going to keep outcrossing it to, non-white and yellows moving forward. But to the other breeders' points that, white and yellow doesn't always pop out the syndrome. I mean, I can attest to that it didn't. I didn't have anything in my collection pop out with it, luckily. But I still think it's really important too to just introduce new genetics too. Like every few seasons, get something that you think is going to go well with the project and cross that back in so you're not line breeding too far in. And I think that's really ultimately where everything comes from. That's bad with leopard geckos is just too much inbreeding, to an extent, like it's expected. Like they live a mile away from each other in the wild. It's not uncommon for that to happen by any means, but I think it's important every few seasons to really cycle in some new genetics.
Yeah, I do have a follow-up question, but I think we have some questions in the comments, Jen.
Yeah, Reese wants to know if you feel. I think you might have touched on this and answered this, but is white and yellow to white and yellow bad, or causes white and yellow syndrome?
Yeah, and Reese, to your point, no. Like I did it this season, had really cool animals pop out, no issues whatsoever. I know there's other breeders that do it too, like Sage Quiggle. She actually lives here now at Hughes Geckos. She has some really nice white and yellow stuff, and she does it every season. Hasn't seen any issues with it. I know there's a few others in the hobby that do it as well. Me personally, I wanted to try it for one season, see if there was anything cool that popped out. They weren't really any different from a white and yellow to just a regular high contrast animal. So
yeah,
that's really what I'm gonna. Yeah.
My follow up to all of that, I've had discussions with other people for the sake of anybody who might disagree with them, because like I said, I'm not an expert. I'm not qualified to be an expert in this. One of the popular opinions is that white and yellow syndrome. This isn't my opinion for everybody ahead of time. Doesn't really exist. It is a product of a ton of initial inbreeding. And that, obviously when you puppy mill any animal, they're going to have neurological issues. This is the discussion that was being had. It's not something I am teaching anybody right now, but Enigma was created by a shit ton of inbreeding is the opinion of that conversation. White and yellow syndrome, you outcross them, you responsibly breed them, you won't ever have white and yellow syndrome was the topic in that discussion. Do you have any insight to that? And if you feel like it's going to mess anything up, don't answer that because you weren't a part of that conversation. And like I said, I'm not qualified to back you on anything. What do you think about any of that?
I would agree with it. Like, I think that this hobby, to a certain point, like, there was a lot of stuff in the early days that was severely inbred. And I think that's ultimately where a lot of issues stem from. Because I've seen animals with neuro issues where they weren't Enigma, they weren't white and yellow. Like, there was nothing in their genetic makeup that would indicate that they should have a neuro or equilibrium issue.
Mhm.
And I've
Yeah.
seen it. Like, not in my collection, but I've seen it, like, managing the pet shop. Like, we had animals come in, and I'm like, this is like a wonky Max Snow. Like, he can barely
Yeah,
hold his
yeah,
head up right. Like, ultimately, I think it's a testament to where your genetics come from. I think, if you buy really quality animals from ethical breeders that are doing their best work to outcross lines
Yeah.
correctly and build genetic integrity with all their breeding stock, I think you're going to have success ultimately. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's really important to stress that for newbies that are coming into the hobby. Like, I know it sucks shelling out a little bit of extra money for quality breeders sometimes, but it's worth the investment because you're not going to have any issues in the long run. You're going to
yeah,
have
yeah.
animals that hatch out with perfect body structure. They're not wonky in the head. Like, they're good animals. Then they're good quality animals that people will buy from you.
It was a good conversation to be a part of. I
Yeah.
felt very underqualified to be a part of it. Angel, did you have anything you wanted to add to any of that, or?
Um, yeah, no, I was for the most part I agree with Vinny, but I also think that it's like like with white and yellow syndrome, it is a case by case like thing, you know. Like for instance, Vinny had a really good outcome, but I had a shitty outcome, you know. And
Yeah.
I don't mind talking about it, right? I'm as open as can be. So I did do some white and yellow to white and yellow pairings, and I actually had crossed my male to three other white and yellow females. He was white and yellow as well, and every single baby that hatched white and yellow had like a wobbly kind of like demeanor to it, right? It was like super like unbalanced, would fall over. Um, it was just like a really bad experience, you know. And fortunately, I was able to like get them off. Like I was as transparent as possible. I pet only them, you know. Like I told everybody that actually liked those animals what was
Yeah.
wrong with them. Nobody had a problem. I actually keep up with them pretty frequent. I have one left. Um, and it's like you see Reese cancel Angel. But yeah, so it kind of sucked, right? Like it kind of like turned me off with the white and yellow stuff because initially I had heard that it wasn't really a white and yellow to white and yellow problem, that it stems from a certain lineage that was being inbred, and then those animals that were white and yellow had that neurological problem. Then they were outcrossed into other animals, and every single animal that was from that lineage carried it, right? Now, I also heard that even if you have an animal that what you call it that doesn't express like those problems, it can still pass it on in the next generation, you know? So with
Mhm.
the initial male that I have, um, he's perfectly fine. He eats fine. He's strong. He walks around perfectly fine. There's literally nothing wrong with him. Um, he was also bred a season before I bred him, and he was crossed out to a non-white and yellow, and all of those babies were perfectly fine. Every animal
Okay.
that came out white and yellow was fine. But then when I had got him, I crossed him to the three females, and all of those babies ended up being. So then I'm like, is it because it's white and yellow to white and yellow, or so it's like a really weird. It's I don't know. It's so weird to like explain or to
It's
understand, you
it's a
know?
good argument for the conversation that was taking
Yeah.
place. Where it
Mhm.
was pretty much like they were intense about it's not real, it's not real, and I was
Yeah.
kind of like, I'm not the authority here. Like I said, I'm underqualified, but yeah, no, that's an interesting perspective. So you had a really bad outcome with
Yeah, it
this
sucked. It sucked
thing.
because some of the animals were really nice. I actually have one posted on my Instagram. It's probably the only white and yellow tremper that's on my Instagram, and it's
Hmm.
very nice. It has really nice colors, high white sides. It's growing so fast, and it just sucks because like obviously I'm never gonna breed it. I would have loved to because it is really nice, but I'm never gonna be able to breed it, and then it also sucks for like the next person that gets it. They're never gonna be able to breed it, right? So
Yeah,
it's gonna just have to be a pet, which is fine too, right? Like people can
yeah,
have
people
pets,
need pets.
and that's probably the best way for the gecko, I guess, right? Like let him live in a pet house and let him do his thing, you know. So
You'll
not
have
too
an
mad
easy
about it.
time. You'll have an
Mhm.
easy time finding a home for that one because it's nice.
Yeah.
How are we doing with the
Oh wait,
comments?
wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I actually sold it
Yeah,
this week. I completely forgot. I actually sold it this week to a local person. They actually messaged me and I met up with them
Oh,
and
okay.
gave
Nice.
them. I literally forgot about that. That's crazy.
Reese just said too. He's like he's gonna breed it. Watch. What do we got going on in the comments, Jen? Anything?
Yeah, Josiah had a question a while back. I'm not sure exactly what it was pertaining to. Obviously the white and yellow, but he
Oh, I
said
think he's just thinking.
generations. Yeah, brothers sisters pairing isn't the answer. So
Yeah.
not really sure. That was really the only thing that I had seen, other than we're going to cancel Angel. So
I'm done.
I did see
Done.
that part. I did see that part.
I had a strong year. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah. Is white and yellow? Is that the only negative part of your year that I would say that
Yeah,
you the big learning experience?
yeah, that was the hurdle for me. I had for the most part I haven't had like anything crazy, right? I had one female that completely unrelated to white and yellow or anything, but I had one female that didn't really lay too well.
Mm.
Her eggs just kept coming out infertile, and whenever she did lay, it was like a little bit weird. But other than that, I had a really good season. The only hurdle was that white and yellow, and I feel like I got that settled. I think I handled it pretty well. I asked around too, like to so what I do that a lot of people probably don't do, like newer guys, is like I don't care. I'll ask anybody anything, like if I'm having a problem, I'll go to you, I'll go to Brett, I'll ask Reese. Like I really don't care. I just ask and ask and ask, and somebody's gonna give me an answer, right? And if everybody does, perfect. I just take the common thing that they're saying and then apply it. So I think
Yeah.
that kind of helped me with this this hurdle.
Did you have anything more to add to that, Vinny?
No, other than like Angel was saying, I think he did. You know, he did it perfectly too. He had a bad experience with them. He decided to pet those animals out and not continue breeding them, which,
Yeah.
for I think that's really important, and that shows that he's in it for the long run too. There's people out there that would just keep breeding those under the table and not
Mhm.
be vocal about it.
Yeah.
I think that's really important that, you just pet them out, tell people, you're very transparent about what happened with them,
Yeah.
what went
Yeah.
wrong with them, and, moved on. It's
Yeah.
and I'm sure eventually you'll probably explore that gene again. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
just depends on the line, man. Like I really think it really comes down to what you cross them out to, and it's like you're saying, it can pop up. Ultimately, I think the line, if I'm not mistaken, came from like Belarus back in like the '90s, like, and they weren't sold off till the early 2000s. Like I think that's the history on that line. So they all come from like Prohorch. I think it was Prohorchik or whatever. I think they do a lot of fat tails now, but it was like a random mutation in their collection. But like you're saying, there's probably one line out there where it stemmed from, whether they crossed it to something that maybe had neuro. Maybe they crossed the white and yellow to an enigma, and that just kind of set a chain reaction in their collection. Like,
I
early
don't know.
2000s were pretty early for the hobby in general, and
Yeah.
I don't think a
Yeah.
lot of people were doing as much genetic tracking back then. So super important. It just comes down to good genetics, outcrossing, and I think you'll have a really good time. And like
Yeah.
Angel did it perfectly. Like it didn't have success with him. Super transparent about it. Petted him out. Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
That actually is something that means a lot to me too. I will. I have. It's funny that Reese keeps mentioning something about me looking for a pen. It's because I probably am. But as soon as Angel said that a minute ago, and hopefully I don't embarrass you, but I wrote your name down and I put a check mark next to it, and then later on I have a list. If somebody ever says something so honest that they really didn't have to or shouldn't, I write that down because I'll be looking at your store later, And honestly, I'm very picky with who I buy from.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not saying I wouldn't buy from everyone on the screen. I'm just saying, like, I don't think you'd lie to me, and I know that for a fact now. So that's
Yeah.
my opinion.
Yeah.
So I just wrote your name down. I was looking for my pen, Reese. So
you made
you're
it on
supposed
his nice
get
list,
my
not
pen.
list.
You know what? There's one thing that I learned is that like being honest in here is like the way to go. Like I see a lot of breeders where I'm not gonna say any names, but there's a lot of bigger breeders that do a lot of shitty things, and then you hear about it amongst like the mid-tier breeders, like, oh,
Yeah.
did you know that this was this and this came from this? And then I'm like, oh man, like it's so bad, and I feel like if I can at least like start off with a good base, right? And that would be starting off with a good base, being as transparent as possible, really looking in detail into like my lineages, then like I feel like I'm off to a good start, because like I don't want to be one of those guys that are here for like 1 or 2 years. First off, I don't really even care about selling the geckos. I really do love the geckos. I like working with the animals, right? So like if I can just do that, then that's fine. But then if
Yeah.
Sorry,
Reese,
Angel.
bro, Reese.
Peter
But yeah.
got on that one, but
Oh wow.
yeah, I'm not like Vinny's name's on that list too, but yeah, I totally, if I hear something like that, it just, I won't remember, so I'm like, hey, this guy's honest, and I'll just write it down
Yeah.
real quick. Like, Jen hasn't made the list yet. Maybe one day, you never know.
But yet I'm shipping him a couple of geckos this week. But I
Like
haven't
literally Monday, because it's like the first
Yeah.
window.
but I haven't made the list, y'all. So
Yeah, right.
Oh, it's cooling down where you guys are, finally.
So we're cool now, and then it's going to be cool Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, which it has to be that. So normally I ship Tuesday for Wednesday, but and I like to do the same when getting back to me. But this time of year, I need 3 in a row in case it gets held up in Memphis. So I got 3 in a row. Was that? So I'm going to do something a little unorthodox. Actually, when David Tran hopped on here, he reminded me that I did grab my pen and write a note here. Originally, we had a technical difficulty, and so everybody's introductions got cut off. I'm going to go ahead because we're recording this one, and that other one will be deleted later.
Okay.
I wanted to go ahead and obviously have your guys' information on here. So, Vinny, Glenview Geckos, we started off by talking about, where did you get your name from? Remind us what you said about where you started your name and why.
Yeah, massively underwhelming. It's just the street that I live on. It is not no special meaning behind it. It's literally just I thought of it a couple years ago. It used to be like Vinny's Reptiles or something even dumber, and I was like, I got to change that. So I went with that. I'm like, rolls off the tongue a little bit. Sounds, I think that can. Exactly. I think we can do a cool, like my girlfriend's designing me a logo that's like gecko tails for like G's. So she's hopefully I'll have something to share there soon. We're designing it right now, but nothing,
awesome.
Nothing fancy. Just literally the street that I live on, which is probably not the safest thing to do in today's world, telling everybody my address, but
probably not. Reese is marking
is.
it down too.
Yeah,
So.
he's trying to
Yeah,
get your address here, but
gonna check to see if gonna lock all my doors.
He's
later.
making a list, and he fits the suit better. So, Angel, Infamous Exotics, Reptiles. You also started to talk about your MMA training, and that's your handle in a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Again, I'm an MMA fighter out of Yonkers. My stage name was The Infamous, so technically it's actually Infamous's Exotic Reptiles, but you can't put a thing on it, so I just, Oh, you see that comment, Steve? Angel's the Rookie of the Year.
There you go. How long have you been training MMA?
I started when I was 16, so I'm about to be like on 10 years, maybe almost 11, and I think it's going to be 11 years in February.
Nice. So you are still actively training, and
yeah. So I haven't competed in a couple years. Like you guys know, life shit happens, so like it's been like slowing me down with actually competing. I feel like if you're not fighting is a little bit different, like I'm putting my health on the line, and if I'm gonna go out there, I have to make sure that I'm 110% in it, and if I'm not gonna go out there and risk it. I have a daughter. Like I always tell like my teammates, so I train with them every single day, right? These guys are competing and they're active, right? And they always try to push me to fight, and they're like, bro, you're so good, like you should fight. And I tell them, I'm like, yeah, I get that, but I have other things going on, right? And I don't want to risk getting my brains turned into mashed potatoes, and I can't even speak to my daughter or give her anything, So like when my life is, and time is ticking, but when my life is correct and it's right, then I'll dedicate some time to going as far as I can. And if that time never comes, that's okay. Like if I don't ever fight again, I really don't care. I just at the end of
Yeah,
the day,
training
like
is enough too. It keeps you
yeah,
healthy.
exactly. I'm fine with just training and being the best that I could be. Like I don't really care about fighting at this point. I do,
Yeah,
but I gotta get other things settled.
right. Vinny, you are. How many years do you have in the hobby? Have you gone out, come back? What's your story? How long have you been doing this?
Well, I've been keeping leopard geckos since I was 9. Um, I got taken to my first reptile show at that age, and just that was it for me. Fell in love with the hobby pretty quickly, and leopard geckos have always really been my focus area. I've had other stuff throughout the years, and I mean, I did fat tails this year just because I wanted to see what I'd pop out. Sold a few of them, but like really the only year I'm going to do that. But I really started breeding leopard geckos heavily, I would say back in like 2016, 2017.
Okay.
That's really when like my first official season was. Did pretty well, had some really cool stuff hatch out. That was more like I was really into raptors at the time. Um, I ended up getting a job at the reptile shop though around that time too. So my hobby kind of became my work. So I took a few seasons off. I didn't really breed during the COVID spout or any time really through college. Just kind of worked at the shop and got my reptile fix there. And then after I graduated, I was like, yeah, I think I want to get back in, pretty seriously. So kind of had like a test season with a few animals in 2022, and then 23 and this year have been, all focus area stuff that I want to work on with the white and yellows and so
Yeah.
forth.
It's nice to have a niche, right? Like something where you don't have so many extras because you're doing one or two things. How many animals or different morphs do you keep?
I mean, I'm really just like, I have pretty much all my breeders are tangerine tremper.
Okay.
Um, and then, white and yellow. And then I have a little bit of snow, max snow, and that's about it. I mean, eclipse, obviously you're going to get eclipse when
Yeah.
you're breeding tremper. But I try and diversify what I buy from different breeders. Like I have some really nice red stripe stuff from John at Gecko Boa. He was breeding. I actually just got the history on it a couple of days ago. I'm probably annoying him over email at this point. I feel like I email him once a month.
Yeah.
Uh, but he said like he bred the original Tremper line, just some really cool red diamond stuff, and has refined it for like 10 seasons, and they are just awesome females. I actually picked up like a holdback female from him in January, so she's been popping out some cool stuff. Yeah, really just try and diversify what females I have, but all Tremper. It's been my favorite since I was a kid. Like even
Yeah.
going back to the stuff that Ron was popping out, like the super jungly pattern, and eventually crossing white and yellow to it. Just always been my favorite.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, no, I actually just started getting into rainwaters. Not to say anything negative about Bell Mafias. I actually do like bells, but I I'm on a one at a time it because everything in my collection that has albinism is Tremper. So I have a few things I'm doing with rainwater just to learn about it and get to know it better. I will add Bell in there later too. What about you, Angel? How many different morphs would you say you're working with? I know you said you were a first year breeder.
Yeah.
So what'd
So
you go?
initially, I'm sorry. Initially, I try to like get like bits and pieces of everything. Right, I had some white and yellow stuff, max snow stuff, some super hypo tangerines. Um, I think for the most part that was what I started with, and then I also had some trempers, but then a little bit like later I ended up getting this really nice bull tangerine. He's like from firebolt lineages, but he's not really a firebolt. He's an outcross. So then that kind of like sparked the idea where I was just like, how about I push this stuff off to the side? Let's get this. Let's centralize our project into like keeping it just bolt hangs and then have some other side stuff going on. So right now, I have a lot of like bowl tangerine stuff. I have a little cipher group. I don't have the female yet, but she will be coming in soon. And then what else? Oh, and then I'm gonna work on another super hypo group, right? Just because like those are super nice. A lot of people like them, so I'll have like that stuff, but mainly it's my bull tangerines, and then like my breeders, I have maybe like 12 breeders. I don't really have a huge collection. I have maybe like 40 babies and like 12 breeders. Nothing crazy.
It's cool. No, that's awesome. It'll be 200 before you know it, and then you'll be like, "Why did Joe tell me that?" You know, like
Yeah, right.
I really wish he didn't say that to me. Um, there was something I've been holding on to. Actually, Vinny brought it up a couple days ago. So I'm going to actually phrase it exactly the way he did. So let's fast forward the hobby 5 years. For one, who's still going to be here?
I'll be here.
So what morphs, combos, trends do you guys see kind of taking over the hobby? Any predictions for stuff like that? Let's go with Vinny US. So Angel first.
Um, I'm reading Peter's comment, and he says Bold Gang, and I agree 1,000%. Me and Vinny were actually talking about this in the DM. Like Bengal stuff and everything having to do with like bold tangs. I really feel like maybe not in the next 5 years. I think it's gonna come a little bit sooner, but I think
Mhm.
that's gonna blow up, right? Like a lot of people are hatching out these really orange animals with these really dark blacks, and
Yeah,
and I think it's like accelerating. Uh,
yeah.
I can't really look past. I would say maybe Cypher will kind of like blow up, right? Like Cypher is still in like its stage, right? It's like in its ugly teen stages, right? Not a lot of people have some really sick Cyphers, but it's gonna. I can't hear you, Joe. I
I
can't hear
said
you.
I love Cypher.
Oh no, Cypher is awesome, right? But like.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like right now it's in the stage, right? Like a lot of it washes out. It gets like super like normal,
Yeah.
like doesn't look like anything
I
crazy.
think we're in the learning phases, the learning stages with
Mhm.
Cypher. Where it's starting to move around a little bit. People are learning. Um, Steven says bolds are superior. We got to stay away from words like that, brother. That's war.
It's a
That starts
bold
war.
statement.
Or you know
That,
what?
yeah.
I'm on
Bold
Steven's side. I agree. A bold statement. That's good.
Oh,
That's good. That's
Vinny
good.
with the dad joke.
Had to. It was right there.
Sorry, man. I way over laughed at that, but the dad jokes are my favorite ones. um, you got me. How about you, Vinny? Where do you see, obviously, 5 years the hobby? Where are we at?
Yeah, I agree with the bold statement 100%. I think the hobby kind of went in a phase where it was a lot of really cool color, but not a lot of pattern. Um, and I think that's really making a comeback. And I think, like with Angel, like you said, with Firebolt, I think that line is still just getting started. Um, look at my mom's in the comments too. I still do have the first gecko I got when I was 9. She's like 15 or I got her when she was full grown too. I think she's just about 17 now. Still kicking. She's wrinkly, but she's still kicking. Um, I
Nice.
think bolds though. I think pattern's going to really make a comeback, especially when it's being crossed with a lot of stuff. I think Firebold's really cool, and I think Rudy's line at Bold and Bright. I think Bangles are really going to take off here in the next
Yeah.
few years. I'm starting to see a lot more of those on Morph Market. Like Mike at Malav has some really cool stuff. Brett's doing a ton with Bangle. I think it's a really neat gene because that one was a bandit time. It was crossed to like a bold tangerine line. I forget which exact line it was. It may have been Firebold. Um, but basically took, two of the best bold stripe lines together and crossed them and just got super rich orange expressed animals. I think those are going to just blow up probably in the next couple of years, especially as you start seeing them crossed to other things.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
people want pattern back in the animals. I think they're a little bored with cool color, but not a lot going on.
Hmm.
That's at least that's how I feel. I've always liked pattern over just like plain, completely clean, no pattern animals. So, and
I
then
think if
Cipher
we
too.
can, a prediction I'll make is that if we can keep some breeders, so as a community, I think we have a responsibility towards, nurturing each other instead of shitting on each other.
Hmm.
People respond better to positivity, even if you have to tell them something negative anyway. But if we could keep some breeders around, and everybody, like the soapbox people can get down, and just be a part of everything else and be a positive movement with leopard geckos, period. I think that what we would see is a lot of people staying, and then you would get more mutation.
Yeah.
Some of those mutations, obviously, it's a numbers game. You're going to get some that are not great, but if we get some more people staying, and I feel like the hobby as a whole is kind of coming around towards this better behavior than we had 5 years ago,
Yeah.
and I think it's because of clickiness, if I'm being honest, but not in a bad way. It's just like, if you're going to be shit to people and to me and all that and treat us, and then I'm just going to go talk to the people I know are better. And then there's like a whole group of us now. And so, and we're all over the place, in other countries and things like that. I think that we're going to start seeing more people stay than get out constantly. The people who get out, and then the people who get out and get it in, get out and get in, they're going to start becoming irrelevant. But the people who stay, they're going to start to see some mutation, and we're going to start having new stuff to work with.
Yeah.
That's a prediction I'd have. But yeah, anybody disagree with me on that? It would be, I wanted to answer your
Totally
question.
agree.
So
No, totally agree with that. I think the more, I mean, especially it's like you're saying, it's really just a numbers game. Like pretty much all the genes that we're working with today, like they were all random mutations that just happened in somebody's collection. I think the more that people outcross and try and create cool stuff, something's
yeah,
bound to pop out. I can't even imagine what some of the bigger breeders maybe have hiding behind the curtains. I'm
Yeah.
sure there's a few, but it's
yeah,
makes it exciting. It makes, because when Cypher came out, like that was kind of a world breaker for a little bit, because Lemon Frost, like that was super exciting. That gene was awesome with everything it was crossed to, and then it was a huge disappointment because had
yeah.
tumors and nobody could breed him anymore. And then Cypher came out, and it's like, oh wow, this is an actual new recessive that has
Yeah.
no issues whatsoever, and you can cross. I mean, sky's the limit with it. So
Yeah.
Dude, all the hets, man, they come out. They're hardy animals. They are so beautiful. They're just plump, big, bulky, whatever you want to call them. Hardy, they're cipher hets are amazing. Um, what is? I'm gonna go with Jen first. What is your biggest fear in the hobby? We'll do ladies first on that one.
I really don't have one. In the beginning, I did, and it was just not knowing things, and not being accepted because I was new in the hobby. But I've obviously surrounded myself around a lot of good people, so that kind of fear went away. So I don't really have any true fears.
Okay. What about you, Angel? What's something that you fear about your hobby or about stuff?
Again, I touch up on what Jen was saying. I don't really have a fear of anything. I think that maybe like a concern would be like would be the fact that there are a lot of newer people coming in, and hopefully they get the right guidance, right? Because if not,
Yeah.
then the hobby's gonna go to shit, like I've been fortunate to be able to speak to a lot of good people, and they kind of like guided me on the right path. But the newer guy that's coming next year might not have that, and they might just start breeding stuff that's not supposed to be bred. You see people wanting to mix like albino strains and stuff like that, like just like stuff that we're not supposed to do, like hopefully the newer breeders actually get that guidance, because then we can limit the errors.
Yeah. Vinny, you got one for us?
no, going off that though, like I agree. I think the hobby's in a really good place right now, where I think there's enough established breeders that can advocate to those new breeders that maybe are doing something wrong or trying something that they shouldn't be trying. But you can steer them in the right direction, course correct as a whole pretty quickly. I think that's probably one of the biggest, especially with how connected everybody is now. Like back in the day, early 2000s when the hobby was just getting started, like there wasn't a lot of documentation or guidance from a lot of breeders. It was just kind of everybody's doing their own thing. They're breeding whatever they want to breed. Like limited information. There wasn't a whole lot out on the web about them or any of the genetics behind them. Whereas like now, everything's a click away. And I think it gives people the right platform to start out on. Like have a very solid starting point on, whether it's your first year breeding or you're trying something new and you're a seasoned breeder.
Yeah. Mine's a real easy one. It's quick. I'm afraid something will pop up that's pretty amazing and I won't notice it. That's it. Something I could have paid extra attention to. I just missed it for whatever reason. It would have brought something great to the hobby, and I wasn't intelligent enough to see it. Or maybe it wasn't an intelligence thing, and maybe I just was distracted. I worry about that sometimes, but that's probably it.
I think
We
you
have,
proved yourself right or wrong though on the oddball. You
I don't
noticed
know.
that
I don't know.
that
It,
thing.
it looks cool, and right now I could say absolutely zero things about it other than it looks cool, and
Sure.
it's different than. But I did spot something that looked cool. I brought it to other people's attention, and we all kind of unanimously agree start testing starting next year, and
Yeah.
pretty excited about that one just to see what the heck it might be. It's
Definitely.
cool. It's cool looking. It was brought to my attention today that it is carrot head instead of carrot tail, which is pretty neat. Every time somebody puts a comment in there of just speculation, I make a note because there's intelligence that comes from everywhere, and I'll be like, oh, there was somebody that said that, and you go through and you're like, reach out to them and say, hey, you hit it, So that's pretty. But even if it's nothing, she's beautiful. Like I love that animal. Jen, we had Reese actually had a really good question that I now would like to ask. You want to read that to us?
Yeah, what's something when you first started you thought about doing, then researched it and found out it's not a great idea?
Friendship with Reese. That's a very. Oh, you weren't asking me. Sorry, it's about these guys.
Had I wish I wouldn't have moved to Marietta had I known he lived here.
Angel, go for it, man. Did you catch the question?
Yeah. It's the what's something when you first started, right? That question. I
Yeah.
would say, I think I think if we go back like a couple conversations ago, it would be the white and yellow thing, right?
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, like obviously I found out that it wasn't a great idea. I
Right.
would love
Okay.
to touch on it maybe sometimes in the future, but not by doing white and yellow to white and yellow. But we'll see. Like that's the one thing.
I think if Vinny creates that broadcast channel and there's like a safe space where I can get better people to look at them and tell me what I'm looking at, so I get better at it, then I might breed white and yellow.
Yeah.
Gotta
Vinny,
get you on, Joe.
yeah, same question.
I'd say I have two. First one was Enigma when I first starting out, and I mean, especially when I was getting into it, I'm like, man, those are cool. And I wasn't really aware that it was like basically a spider ball python in leopard geckos. I'm like, oh, these things are awful. We should not be
Yeah,
breeding these at all. Like they look outstanding. Like it really sucks that it's like lemon frost. It sucks that the gene does what it does to the animal's health because everything that pops out from crosses with those are just so cool, but just not worth it. It's not ethical and it's not worth it. The other one I would say though is when I was first getting into it, and I mean I would even say over the last 5 years, like when I was first getting into it, I wanted to kind of have everything that there was to offer. Like I wanted to have a pair of this, I wanted to have a pair of rainwaters, trempers, like black knights. Like I wanted to have a little bit of everything, and I realized that just wasn't sustainable to what I wanted to, personal goals that I had for pumping out really cool animals. I'm like, half of these are side projects where I'm going to breed them, I'm going to hatch babies out, and then I'm not really going to know what to do with the project moving forward. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm past that point where I need to have everything in my collection. Where now I'm just really focused on trempers, white and yellow, and that's really it. And that's I can just line breed those and take them wherever I want. It frees up time. I don't have extra rack space being held up by animals that I impulse bought on Wharf Market, and now they're just sitting there not really doing anything. Um, I would say that, and I feel like that's a big thing that a lot of new breeders get into as well. Is when you first start, like you see all these cool animals online, and you want to have a little bit of everything, but the
yeah,
further you get in the hobby, I feel like a lot of breeders end up focusing on one specific thing. Like Angel Firebolt's first season that he's hatching out are awesome, like super cool lavender striping, and like you can definitely tell like that's going to be his focus moving forward, and
Thank you,
it's
bro.
going to turn out really well.
yeah. No, it's a really good point. Jen, did you want to answer that one too, or
No, I'm good.
Jen, you don't want to answer Reese's question? All right. Let's see. So obviously, I like to entertain the comments as much as I possibly can. We got Steven. He actually would like to know your guys' Mount Rushmore of breeders.
Ooh, good question. Angel, you want to go first on that one?
Yeah, I got you. So first we got Surfside Geckos, right? We got Glenview Geckos.
Trying to get around the questions.
No, right now,
Kidding.
I don't know. I'm not too sure because like what are we like gauging that on? Like remember like last time in the private conversation we had when we were talking about like the MMA fighters, is it like your favorite? Is it like the
Yeah.
pioneers, you know? So like it's for me it's a harder question. Maybe you guys should answer it because you guys have a little bit more experience. You've been around a little bit more, but I don't really have a answer for that.
Okay.
I would say one. I think everybody would have a resounding yes for is John Gecko Boa.
Yeah.
Like,
All right.
you know, anytime I talk about leopard geckos, like even people have no idea what they are. Like, you know, I usually mention him once in conversation. I just, you know, I've never had an issue with his animals. I think he's breeding probably some of the nicest stuff on the planet right now and continues
Yeah.
to do so year over year. And he's honest. He's a good person to get breeding stock from. Like, you know, I've kind of grown up in a sense seeing his stuff, you know, line breed into what it is today. And he's had some really awesome results. But I mean, another one growing up for me too was Ron Tremper. Like just seeing all of his old videos, reading his books, like have every copy of his leopard gecko books, like sitting in the room. Like I'll still open them from time to time. You know, a lot of the OGs, you know, very inspirational, and I think they still hold a lot of weight in the hobby today. Like the Breeder Cup this year, Ron's a judge. Like that speaks volumes to how much he's contributed to the hobby.
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, it does, man. And the Breeders' Cup was such a good idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Scott killed it on that one.
Yeah. I like that idea a lot. I like competition, so like I really think that was a really cool way to like infuse into the hobby, you know?
Yeah, it's a dramaless just way of competing, you know, in a sense.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, there's a lot of competition that'll bring drama, and this is just not going to be one of them. You can totally tell it's going to go great every season.
Yeah.
I think it's on its third season, right? It's actually moving forward like that. So
yeah, I think it's third.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys tonight. I wanted to thank you both for taking some time. I definitely wanted to thank you for rescheduling with me.
Yeah.
Obviously, last week I had a personal thing happen last minute. You guys were gentlemen about it. You know, Jen, you were very helpful. Thank you. More than that, if you're already not following Infamous Exotic Reptiles, obviously there's going to be a link in the bio. I'm going to leave the small 5-minute clip that had the technical difficulties up because all of the verbiage is there. You can find, you know, obviously the ways to follow these guys' Instagram. Vinny, you're up there as well. Glenview Geckos. Cool name. Nothing special about it. Just where he's currently living in Arizona. If you're looking for his
in Chandler, Arizona.
Come on, Joe.
Oh, I did not do that, dude. I did not go there. So don't write that down.
Come find me. We'll talk some more geckos.
And then Peter, actually, he just said something about the International Breeders' Cup. We have a episode with Scott talking about it. He actually invites anybody who wants to start that, and in any country, state, you know, that's not the U.S. He doesn't want to do it. He says he's got a lot on his plate with what he's got going now. But he hopes somebody else, you know, gets in contact with him and takes it on from there. But yeah, I will get the verbiage over to this one as well, and then I'll move, you know, things around. But thank you guys so much for coming on here. I do hope to have you back on again soon. Couple of things that you guys can expect to see from the Geckoverse. There's going to be some shifting. We're on Roundtable 10. We're also, you know, into our 8th month. And so there's been some ideas thrown around for anybody who doesn't know, and obviously he's really excited in the comments, but Reese Lopez is joining the Geckoverse.
Nice.
He is going to be throwing together some shorts that are information driven, and he's the right guy for the job, in my opinion, just because he's so thorough. just in conversation with him while he's building, and he's been doing it for a while now. He's not just jumping off. I've learned a couple of things that I thought I already knew, and so that's going to be interesting to see. I am hoping, and I think it's going to go well. Jen is going to start hosting soon. I think she might even just take roundtables over for a little while, and I could be the comment person. But you saw me post recently that I want to be doing something new, obviously an hour-long segment called Power Hour. It's going to be more of an interview type thing, discussion across, but one-on-one. And so I'm hoping that'll work out. The first guests are probably going to be the two folks that are currently helping me with Geckoverse. We got Reese, we got Jen, and we'll go from there. So if you ever need anything from me, reach out. Obviously, if you ever need money, call Angel. He's got a lot of it. He wants you to, did somebody want to put his number on the screen?
No. Come on. Come on.
So, but yeah, no, I really appreciate everybody for being in the comments and hanging out with us. That being said, you guys have a wonderful night. Thank you for watching Geckoverse podcast.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, guys.